Good morning everybody and welcome back to another episode of the LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase, the series where we continue to make custom sets based off, well, what LEGO Zelda would look like. And today we're doing another one of our sets based off Tears of the Kingdom. This is Z0070. It's a Zora set based with 778 pieces. This is Zora's Domain Mucktorock Menace, a set that not only encapsulates the feel of Lanayru from Tears of the Kingdom, but captures what's going on in the caves, the surface and the skies of the Zora regional phenomena. This set is for ages 8 and up with 778 pieces retailing for £74.99 Great British Pounds, has 4 figures and 2 brick-built characters including our dungeon boss of Mucktorock. But we'll take a look at all those details in a minute. Let's read the set's description and get a quick flavour for what we're going to be looking at today. Save Zora's domain from the sludge in the newest addition to the LEGO Tears of the Kingdom line of sets. The fearsome Mucktorock shark has invaded the Sky Islands and is launching sludge at Prince Sidon. Fight the enemy camp with creative weapons to uncover the mystery of the ancient waterworks cave. Slide back the secret entrance to reveal the whirlpool to the caves below, where you can battle with the Xanthos and watch out for the surprise attack from the gloom hands. After this, ascend to the skies using the glide suit, beat the shark and claim Sidon's secret stone for your own. Also connect the banner of the Zora to Z0075 Lookout Landing for further play. That's right, this is another one of our 4 sets based on the regional phenomena that can not only connect to Lookout Landing but give us more of our secret stones. Let's open up our box and take a look at what we've got inside. Well, you'll find 9 numbered bags and 1 large instruction manual for this 700 piece build. Opening up that manual, we will find that bag 1 builds our side build sort of characters. We have the gloom hands here and sludgelike, who's not on any of the box art and marketing, which I think is incredibly funny and just another sort of realistic gaff that we have in this series. The bag 2 gives you your side-on and starts construction of the cave segments. Bag 3 gives us our electric Xanthos with the newer head design, continues some of the details of the actual the ancient waterworks portion of the caves. Bags 4 does a lot of structural work necessary to finish off the caves that maybe you can't see from the front, and also gives us our glide suit link, a figure that you guys saw me store on stream way earlier last year. Bag 5 continues with some of the more structural work needed for this cave section, and bag 6 finishes off sort of the main exterior rock work there, using all of these fishes and seaweed pieces for underwater sort of areas. Bag 7 is mostly Technic frame aimed to support that large surface level that goes over the top of the caves, and bag 8 includes the Captain Construct level 3 and builds most of the terrain. Bag 9 finishes us off not only with Sidon's secret stone but also the Mucktorock shark form, as well as adding the 2 Sky Islands and a couple of extra details across the model, sort of just rounding out the build experience. But without further ado, let's show you all these details that we've been talking about. This is a really expansive playset and there's a lot crammed in here. Specifically, I want to mention, of course, all of the different features and references to this quest line, because it's designed to sort of sum up the Zora quest. Unlike most of the other regional phenomena where one main moment is what stands out, the Zora questline has many things to love. A lot of time is spent puzzling out the mystery of the sky on the surface before you end up going down into the ancient waterworks cave, which pretty much everyone unanimously agrees is a really fun area, and some people even thought was the dungeon. An area that I loved so much and enjoyed in my playthrough that I could not include it here. Originally this set was just going to be a small £15 arena for Mucktorock, however quite quickly changed once I realised that, just like the Avatar sets where I realised it would be a great opportunity to show the sort of depth of having the sky, surface and caves all in one system with such an interesting questline such as the Zora. But let's actually start down below. We're going to start underground. So obviously this represents the caves, not the depth, so isn't quite getting the full scale of Tears of the Kingdom's height. What you're seeing on the outside here, where all these fish and different sort of corals are, is sort of meant to represent part of the East Reservoir Lake, sort of the outside surroundings. Whereas this cutaway section, where all the details are and the fun features, is supposed to represent the actual inside of the ancient waterworks, sort of inside the cave. So imagine it a bit like an inverted cutaway. You can see, of course, that that front corner is held up by a Technic frame, super important, and you've got seaweed dangling and it all looks mossy. Then in the middle layer, of course, you have the surface. This is actually a bit of a 3D terrain. You've got a bit of East Reservoir Lake over on the far right side. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Some of that weird Lanayru vegetation. We've got the Zora banner, a monster cave, and then a bit of a hill like the Lanayru Highlands, mainly to give you that cave-ish element for the monster camp, but also to give those sky islands some depth. And then our last layer is, of course, the sky, where we have 2 islands here, both very small, but there's a couple of features packed in, including, but not limited to, the idea that sludge can be dropped on the domain. Let's start down on the surface. This is where your journey will start. Over here, of course, on the left, you have the banner that, as we mentioned, can be attached to Lookout Landing. This is something that we're doing with all of our champion sets and expands upon the set. If you haven't actually seen that video, I'd recommend checking it out. But of course, here you can see we're adding it to Z0075 and it looks so much better. We've still got 2 more to add before Lookout Landing is complete, but you'll just have to stay tuned to the sets that are coming up on the showcase soon. As mentioned, you've got lots of different vegetation, making good use of the coral pieces. Now, while this is the first time there's been a specific set centered around Zora's domain, it's actually not the first in the timeline canon that we talked about last week. In the release of this Tears of the Kingdom set, this is actually Wave 8. Wave 4 does house a Zora set, so this would not be the first time that we'd be seeing foliage like this in the custom set showcase, despite it being your first time. Next up though, of course, though this foliage continues around the corner, we're making good use of big ugly rock pieces, trying to sort of minimize their use where possible, but really here this is exactly what they're used for, building correct terrain up nicely and just sort of getting the job done, or building up a rough image. You can see here that the green terrain sort of blends into the reservoir lake, and you can actually see the whirlpool, which of course Sidon would form in game, and that actually creates your passageway down to the reservoir cave. This is actually a play feature here to sort of slide this across so that you can actually access it. So as you can see, it moves ever so slightly out of the way and then fully so that your figures can drop down. And actually, if you wanted to go the full way, you could actually leave Glide Link from a Skyland and chuck him all the way into the hole, because this is like a perfect dive spot all the way down into the ancient waterworks cave. Although unlike the game, I imagine dropping from a distance might hurt a little bit more. Above the lake, you can see that the waterfalls actually flow into Reservoir Lake just like the game, using the blue support piece that was introduced with Avatar and Mario. It's a really great piece that really allows this to be possible. Previously, holding masses at a height just wasn't something that we could do, so it's really cool to be able to do stuff like this and just sort of represent details like the depth here. And it truly was the Avatar sets that inspired to have the sky and the land in the same set, otherwise it just wouldn't be possible. There is of course the second Sky Island, but across this cliff on the top you can see that the covering of the cave isn't fully complete. Just a couple of green plates with some more foliage on top, sort of supporting, mostly is there to support the transparent rod that holds up the smaller Sky Island, but also the open back allows for easy access for play. Of course, the entrance to the monster cave, in a sense, if you want to talk about it in game sense, is over here with these 2 bones meant to represent sort of, I guess, the cave system that goes where the Lanayru Tower was in Breath of the Wild, over vaguely near the Kaponga village ruins. However, beyond that, this is just supposed to be a random cave entrance. You've got a torch here, and if you look through, you can see that this is where the sludgelike has been placed for now. Taking him away, you can see lots of space here, mostly so that you could fight enemies like the Lizalfos, like you can see here, with this set included with part recolor, this one representing the shock fruit, using the new peach piece from the Monkey Kid theme. You see here, I've got a little mock-up of it being thrown at the Lizalfos here. You've also got some wooden support, so the monsters have clearly cleaned this out, and unfortunately the unsightly transparent beam is very necessary to the structure, and nothing can be done. But it also gives you a little bit of a hint going on here about what's going on down below in the caves, but we'll come back to that. Here is that sludgelike though. We can't leave him out of this video forever, and he is very similar in design to the like featured in Secret Cave Discovery Z0076, which is connected to Lookout Landing as well, except for of course here he features the sort of more upright body with the toes. I've actually recolored the egg piece, as some people would call it, or the splat piece for melted ice cream, into dark brown for this set to represent the sludge, and you'll see that used actually again later on in the build. Once you actually go above this body, you can see that the head segment's actually very tiltable, and of course the teeth can sort of flex open and close. Down the bottom it's a combination of black and dark brown with a little bit of purple in the mouth, just to try and represent him as best as possible. And unfortunately he can't shoot sludge. With these likes, I was really trying to include the new Dragon Zamor shooters from the Ninjago sets, however, unfortunately couldn't quite make it work on this occasion, although I did get it in somewhere in the custom set showcase. You could actually move him around, so you don't have to put him in the monster cave. You could put him on the hills, like where you actually fight him in game, although this doesn't look great because he's almost as tall as this Sky Island here. Just an unfortunate nature of the 2 scales here clashing. Or you could even put him down here by the river, where I actually think he looks quite good. But I like to put him in the cave because it makes it feel more like an arena for him. There's no strict way to defeat the mini-boss here, however you could always just knock his head off or knock him over. It's a fun inclusion that otherwise wouldn't have made it into the CSS at any point. Down below in the caves you can see that outside we have all of this foliage and fish swimming past, lots of starfish on the wall, trying to give you an idea of a very lush underwater environment like is around Zora's domain. In fact, if you look under the waters in Breath of the Wild you can even see lots of coral and so on, so this is actually fairly fitting. The shoal of fish sort of mimic again like the Avatar set, lots of inspiration taken here, but very, very unique. As we move into the ancient waterwork caves you can see that I've tried to recreate the colour palette and stonework that's used not only throughout the caves but also in the Skylands. The Zora Zonai architecture is sort of a hybrid of the two and actually looks really, really unique. So this set makes a lot use of a lot of different shades of blue, most notably turquoise, aqua and dark blue. The fun techniques continue onto the floor where you can see the broken up bits of this stonework sticking out between the rocks, just sort of one, keeping these plates together, and two, providing the structural support that was necessary for this big slab. As this big slab of stonework is sort of sat here as an angle, and this is actually something that you see in the waterwork cave. This is done on a ball joint and recreates some of the designs, another example of Lego dots making its way into normal sets. However, this is just designed to be a bit of a set dressing for here, but it's also something you could fight on or move along, and it's because it's on a ball joint it could also move around, so maybe it's unstable and the cave's collapsing. All different play ideas for you to consider with a set like this. But beyond that, it is just supposed to represent the platforms that you have to crawl around as you raise and lower the water level. This is unfortunately a feature that's not particularly representable in LEGO, but what we do have here is one of the pipe tunnels around the back. That pipe tunnel there is supposed to represent what you would throw a bomb at or break with a rock hammer in order to raise the water level. In fact, there's two of them, a tiny one at the top and then this big one here. And behind this big one is actually a panel piece that you can sort of slide out the way. You can see here that the tunnel opens up and you could proceed through, and that's obviously supposed to be a very weak representation of those bombable sections which you could pass through into the undercroft. This actual section around the back here, as you can see now, is supposed to actually represent the final section of the ancient waterworks cave, where you have all those tunnels to go through and you have to ascend through the ceiling, and there's lots of choo-choos here. So we've made use of lots of rounded curved elements to create sort of, in a sense, a sewer, which is basically what this is. You can see there's some blue pipes in the wall and some seaweed hanging from the ceiling and a crate here. This is another place where maybe you could store your shock fruit for Link to pick up on your quests. You'll notice though that there's a big exit as the cave takes a turn back into a more natural formation, just to help use up the extra space that we have in this model. And this is another room where something important is going to happen. Up above though, you've got a bit of wasted space here, so just so to throw in some blue pipes. Maybe this is how the water is purified. Just some technical details to add some fun. Nothing really too serious, but I like the idea that the pipes could mean something or expand upon your mysterious lore. Just a good use of otherwise wasted space. Up above the main silo tube, you've got another couple of levers suggesting that this is in fact a working waterworks, and this one's open here with a wooden chest, so you could either imagine that you ascend into here or you have to climb up through here, either way to a hidden location where of course you could have many things inside, one of which could be sight on secret stone. Seems a little bit of a strange place to put this, so maybe not quite here, but you've also got the opportunity to put shock fruit or weapons and other various different items in this model. Around the side there's another window at the top with a cage. This space is actually used up for a function, so up top is more just for decoration. However, down below this cave is supposed to be a playable area. You can see it's quite dark in there, some moss on the floor, some seaweed from the ceiling. Again, it's another very, very damp cave, very, very dark in there and hard to see, and this can be accessed either from the backside or through the sewage tunnel that we've talked about. Up on the top above is the main play feature for this section, where you have a lever here, and if you pull that lever out, you will drop down a big ugly rock piece or small ugly rock piece that contains a singular gloom hands. Now the gloom hands actually come on a separate base here and have been designed slightly out of scale so that they can actually grab around a minifigure. You've seen this in real life, I've shown you this before. I actually have this model, and of course the yellow tiles in the middle would have an eye print on them. The idea being of course that you could either have them separate and chasing around anywhere you like and then grab figures by it, or you can have a jump scare as if they're spawning in randomly, where you pull the lever and they fall down from the ceiling and it's like a moment, which is kind of cool. I like it. Let's move up to the sky now, because once you go down to the waterworks you find the bridge to the sky, and then you could imagine that Sidon and Link climb up the waterfalls together. You've got this small platform here which is supposed to be obviously just a generic Zonai platform in the Skylands, but also a sort of pseudo reference to Isle of Skyfish. While it's not shaped like a fish, it does have those floating rocks around it with the anti-gravity sections and where you fire through the teardrop. No play features represented here, but it just makes the Sky Islands feel a little more interesting with these floating rocks around the back. One of the major ideas for this platform in particular is for it to be a place where you could fight the Captain Construct 3. Of course, those are usually only found in the sky, and he fits here on this smaller island, or it can just be a place for you to place some minifigures or have a small battle or whatever you want to do. From the top down, you can see it's only on a 6x6 area, but it does still look quite impressive from up at this height. Making your way up to the next platform, you'll notice that there's a transparent rod sticking out the back here. This is for the posing ability of the glide suit. When this one was first designed, the new superhero's curved piece wasn't yet possible. There's a chance that one would work better for a model like this, giving you a couple more options, but it's fine. The straight one does the job. Either way, you could stick Link's glide suit legs to the back of this, and that would work quite well, as you can see here. Looking at our top platform, this one's a little bit bigger and a little bit less refined. This is supposed to represent, I guess, the center of the water temple, and while none of the details here are represented, because to be honest, I'm not sure the architecture would have been hugely important or hugely recognizable for kids, it is supposed to be an open area where you can fight the Mucktorock shark and Mucktorock himself, who we'll be taking a look at in a minute. So it's a nice big area, but it does actually have a hidden feature underneath where all the Technic is obviously largely securing it to this support pillar so it's stable. But you'll notice in here that there's one of those sludge pieces recolored again in dark brown. There's a lever here on the back that if you push in, the sludge will come flying out, and of course that could then fall down to the ground, hit someone on the head, or just represent the idea that the sludge is falling from the skyland. Really nice, really like that I managed to squeeze that in here. I'm really pleased with a feature like that. And that about does it for all the things to take a look at for this actual set. Let's go and take a look at the figures. And our first figure to take a look at is Link in the glide suit. This is actually making good use of the vampire bat wings that have been around for nearly a decade at this point, meaning that unfortunately he's going to look a little goofy if he's ever trying to hold a weapon or anything. But the outfit and the coolness and obviously the usefulness of it in game really outweighs it. Using the same hairpiece that we've been using across this wave for the longer hair, white torso with all the correct markings, along with the arms obviously, and then the legs. So tightly detailed printing and a completely new face print for this guy, but fairly straightforward figure. Then of course we have Sidon with the Stone of Water. This is our third secret stone to make its appearance, and of course we have Sidon here in his technically first but actually second CSS appearance, with a head mold that will have been designed by him by the time we get to this point in the showcase. No hat, because that would be really extra. We have his trident here in his other hand, and then he's using dark red as his color, although it's not accurate, it's close enough. Arm printing, torso printing, and a little bit for the legs. Overall pretty straightforward figure, and he has his charming smile. He's definitely not my favourite. And as mentioned, of course, this is our third of the Secret Stones. Go check out Great Sky Island and Legendary Stormwind Arc, respectively, if you want to see the other two. We've got plenty more to come. Next up, we have Electric Lizalfos. This is a figure that I've drawn before. This appeared in Wave 2. However, since I changed the head molds more recently, this is actually his first appearance with the newer design. This means that the horn piece is now removable so that you can use it to create a variety of weapons to use in your playsets, similar to how Fuse works in game. Underneath the headpiece is of course then a blank minifigure head, some simple torso printing and arm printing. He's got his tail around the back, which unfortunately wouldn't work well on Fuses, but it is a unique piece from Wave 1 and 2 again, and then he has some simple legs as well. Then we have the Captain Construct 3. We've seen plenty of these before, except for this one features a unique head print on the cone for the level 3 variant, as well as a different head element on the top. He has the bow. We've seen the version 1 in Stormwind Arc, and the version 2 is still to come, but otherwise it's a very straightforward design, making use of the superhero poser pieces in the polo stud in order to create the wibbly arms and legs. Next up into the buildable characters, we have probably my favourite in this set, and this is Mucktorock. So Mucktorock obviously has two forms. We have the little guy and the shark. Let's start with the little guy. He's actually using the body from the Dreams theme that's used for the Mushroom People, with a new mould for the head. Now this new mould is not new to this set. It's a mould I designed for Octorocks in general that have appeared in Wave 4. If you want to see more images of those, check out the community tab or my channel art. They're on there too. Basically this is a reuse, but it is a new mold. It's not one that currently exists. However, it's one that I've previously designed, and that just sits on top of a normal minifigure body attachment, which is the Dreams piece. Some light printing here and there to represent the little guy, of course. But the main one we're all here for is the shark. And inside the shark, of course, there's plenty of space so that you could put, say, a figure or even the secret stone. And this is actually the largest shark, the same as the great white shark. Now, I modelled it off the Pirates of the Caribbean 5 dead shark. However, this is just the same great white shark mold, just in black and purple, and it looks great. I really love how it looks. This is my favorite of the boss translations. I really think it's really cool. Next up we have the gloom spawn. We've already sort of talked about these guys and you've seen them in real life, making use of sausages in dark red, which is a color they already come in, and an eye print in the center. You can see here that they can be face down as if they're not actually attacking you, up as if they're chasing towards you, and you can even fold them backwards and put a figure in their grasp to grab them. I really love how these guys turned out particularly, and I really love the implementation in this set. And then of course lastly we've already talked about sludgelike, but here he is next to his in-game counterpart. I was never going to get a perfect representation, but I really like how it came out, and given that like likes also eat people, you could put a figure in the middle, and I think that's why I like the idea of including them in sets like this, because it's like a very grabby creature, which is great for a kid's play set. And that's actually going to wrap it up for the figures and then the set as a whole. There's so much packed into this one, I feel like I rushed through it, but hopefully you guys understand what's hidden away in this one. So much to love, whether it be bosses, characters, figures, buildables, or just the full range of motion that we have between the sky caves and surface here. Not to mention all of the play features and stuff around the back, all the creatures that even are not mentioned on the box, such as sludgelike and the gloom spawn. It's great. I really like this set. It was one that I didn't know when I first played through the Zora quest line. I wasn't so sure about how I was going to turn it into a set, because I knew I wanted to do one for each region, at least one set. But then once I had the idea to combine these three bits together, it became one of my favourites conceptually, and I really like how that translated. It's actually the first set that I designed for the Wave 8 program. Now we're not actually done with of course our Tears of the Kingdom sets. With Z0071, the Charge set coming up next, back to the depths again before we head off to another dungeon. And then I should bring a point that this set, the Zora's Domain one, marks us 9 out of 18. We're now halfway through the series. After this 10th one, this is the end of our part 1, and they'll be taking a couple of weeks between part 1 and part 2, and I'll be releasing a new trailer to tease the remaining 8 sets. However, we've still got one more to look forward to, maybe next week, maybe the week after. Haven't quite decided yet. Regardless, I hope you'll come back, as this is a fun small set. And after that, of course, big excitement as we move on to the final 8 sets, including of course the finale of Tears of the Kingdom. All 8 sets are designed and ready to go. I just have to finish drawing the figures and do all the renders, so it won't be too long of a break, hopefully. But in the meantime, of course, let me know what you thought about this one down below. I hope you guys like it, and I will see you very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.